I ran across this quote the other day. It says, "Let your love for God change the world, but never let the world change your love for God." There's so many influences trying to pull our boys away from who God says they are. And I've invited Mark Hancock, CEO of Trail Life USA, to join me in this conversation. How do we begin to talk to our kids about what it means to have a solid self-esteem? What does that even mean? Yeah. Because when they enter these friendships, they need to have something with them, some sense of reassurance that they are somebody worthwhile. Otherwise, they're taken for a ride.
Yeah. Well, you can read some research that says a young man's self-esteem comes from what other people think about him, the people that are most important to him. So he determines his own self-esteem, how does he feel, based on what other people feel about him. And that's the scary part about social media, because there's so many voices. You made reference to that. Our culture today, there's so much stuff that's feeding into how it is it should be, how it is that you should look. All these things that are coming across boys, and it's challenging for them to navigate.
And Mark, I had one boy come in, and actually several boys have come into the counseling office and have said, "Mr. Huerta, I'm bulking. I'm building as much muscle as I can. I'm eating tons of calories. And there's a new phenomenon called bigorexia." And I'm asking them, where have you gotten this picture of who you need to become? And they've said, yeah, social media. These guys are just ripped up. And another group of boys said, "Mr. Huerta, we've got six-packs going. Mm-hmm. Girls tend to like these. You know, they love the six-packs." And that's been on more than one occasion where boys have talked about six-pack being attractive. And I go, so where did you find that out? Probably not from your parents.
Right.
Somewhere you found that out. So how do we help our boys accurately assess their skills and their worth? That is such a hard place to go.
It really is. That virtual world is a virtual world. It isn't real. And they spend so much time there listening to all those other contrary voices that may not be what we as parents want to have our sons and daughters follow after. So we have to make sure that we have those bridges, that we build the bridges, that the people that they think know them the best and feel the best about them are not their followers, but the people who live in the house with them. Or maybe the people who go to church with them, or people who are involved in the group that they're involved with. So we have to make sure that they're balancing those relationships and that we're talking with them about the difference between virtual and real, because it's so confusing for them. They're taking all their cues from this other unreal space and basing their lives on. They'll be frustrated with that because that's a standard you can't actually achieve.
But Mark, I think the challenge with that as well is that the world seems to be going towards that virtual world as real, right? The metaverse, and we're seeing that video game, they have video game platforms now where people can make livings, they can make money. I've heard boys go, yeah, I'm going to become a professional video gamer. There's big money there, and I have all these followers watching me play video games, and they feel powerful, and in real life they feel small, they feel weak. They may be 120 pounds, real small, but in the virtual world, they're huge, strong, and powerful.
Yeah.
How do we counter that?
There are some very tempting things in that virtual world, but there's a price to be paid, and we need to talk to the young people about what you're giving up by going into that place. Joy is harvested in the face of other people, and that can't be done virtually. We harvest joy by spending time face to face with people. And so that's why we're seeing these levels of depression and anxiety and all these things, because in the virtual world, you can't actually achieve the type of joy that you can't sitting across from somebody and sharing a conversation personally.
That's fantastic, Mark. You went to mental health there for a moment, and I appreciate that, because having healthy friendships, we've seen that long study that says what's most protective of mental health is having healthy relationships. How do we teach our kids to have healthy friendships, healthy relationships? Where does that conversation begin?
Yeah.
And then, what are the next steps? And we'll go there next.
Well, they've got to experience them. So if we're not giving them the opportunity as parents, and we're not taking the responsibility, giving them places where they can find healthy relationships, people that share our values. That's why in Trail Life USA, 50,000 members across the country who have similar values. And so that's a great place for boys to be engaged and for parents to feel like, yeah, this is the tribe we want to be a part of. So you've got to find your tribe, people who share your values. And in that face-to-face space, they begin to recognize the difference between the real and the virtual. And it's an experiential thing, because if you're trying to explain it to your son or daughter intellectually, you're just not going to get there. That pull is so strong in that environment for a lot of kids, it's just too late. We've got to do a good job of parents and just showing them the difference between the real and the virtual, letting them experience being with other people. And that they will find and they will recognize, you can take a steak and throw it in a blender, and you can take the same steak and just eat it. And you say, well, that's the same nutrients, but I'll tell you what, I'd rather have a steak than just a bunch of chopped up meat.
Yeah.
And so if you can give them experience what it feels like to have that steak, even though you say the same nutrients are there in the virtual world that are there in the real world, you're still with people or talking with people, it's not the same. A steak is different than a burger. And so when we can show our kids, we can expose them to what it means to have real life connections with people and make sure they're getting those away from the digital world. When they're making those connections, they'll begin to see the differences between spending time with people, which is vital for the next generation.
Yeah, and with what you guys do at Trail Life, that's a perfect example. Being outdoors, God's nature, you're doing adventures and going after things together side by side. And for boys, that is actually bonding. It creates a connectedness when you're doing something side by side together. I know in counseling, sometimes when I walk side by side with a young man, rather than sitting face to face, they feel even more connected with me. And we're able to have deeper conversations. And so as parents, we can have that in mind, that we get the opportunity to influence them as we guide them towards healthier relationships. David and Jonathan, they had an amazingly special relationship in Scripture. They were willing to sacrifice for one another. It was for the well-being of the other. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of times friendships are dependent on what thing can I pull you into, and if you go into this stuff with me, then you can be my friend. But if you do something that I don't really like, or you're not wanting to be wild with me, then you can't be my friend. And that's where we're seeing in today's culture, some of the young Christian boys have to be courageously alone sometimes because they're wanting to do what's right, and they're not getting sucked into those places. And how do we help solidify their sense of worth and competence and belonging when sometimes they have to courageously stand alone? And I love this quote. It says, "Great moves of God are usually preceded by simple, courageous acts of obedience."
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
And man, that's what we can teach our young boys to do as they're influenced from all over the place, all around them. And we've created Launch into the Teen Years with that intention to equip parents with a resource that they can use. That you can get away for a weekend, you can use it in multiple weekends, but it's something you do together as parent and child, and you're guiding them in these important conversations. And one of those sessions is friendships, and you can dig deep into that. Mark, thank you for being in this conversation with me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.